Hello, truth seekers. Lawrence here, and welcome to Easy Enlightenment. So, one thing is certain in life, and that is death, isn't it? Death is certain, it's inevitable. Sooner or later, we all got to go through this. And when we go through this, we won't even know we have passed the gate. And that's the beauty of it. No one can run, hide, or escape from the death. Running and hiding is just an illusion. Ego loves to create that illusion. But it is an illusion. So it is certain in life. So when we think about the death, notice some of you are okay with it, isn't it? You understand the natural unfolding of life, and when there is that acceptance to it, then there is okay with the idea of death, okay with the idea of the ultimate death. And for some people, the idea of death creates fluctuation. The idea of death indicates people that there won't be any more fun in my life. There won't be any experience in life. And that narration makes people fluctuate with the idea of death. If you are afraid of the death, and if you have started something new in your life, and notice you have to leave all those things behind, that creates a fluctuation, isn't it? So, some people accept death, some people reject death, the ultimate dying. But whether you accept death or reject death, when it comes to spirituality, even the people who accept death, they reject the spiritual death. The spiritual death is about death of the ego. And that death of the ego is linked to the ultimate death. So people on the surface accept we all gotta go. Yes, death is inevitable. But the same people reject the death of the ego, the spiritual death. So when people reject the spiritual death, that contradicts the ultimate acceptance of the death. And people who don't want to hear about death, they also don't want to hear about the spiritual death as well. So there's a double resistance for the people who ignores the death, ultimate death, and the spiritual death. Without the death of the ego, there's no ease in life, and there's no ease to how things are unfolding. Just accepting life is impermanence is not enough. That is just an idea. Death is the ultimate freedom for sure. When you don't have the physical body, there's no ego. So it's the ultimate freedom. But we don't have to wait to the final death, the ultimate death, to be free from the struggle, to be free from the ego. We can we can be free while we are being alive. And it's possible. Becoming free is about the destruction of the ego, dismantling the ego. When we are able to dismantle the ego all the way, when there's no layer is left, no ripples of the ego is left, then that's freedom. That's spiritual freedom. Right now, there's so much fluctuation in life. Mental fluctuation, emotional fluctuation, and a physical fluctuation. And that is all happening because of the ego. Ego makes us struggle. Ego is all about seeking further and further. Ego is always seeking experience and upgrades. And when the ego is seeking, basically you are seeking. And when you're seeking, you have to put yourself physically to make things happen. You're mentally engaged in it. So there is a mental and physical engagement, and that creates a struggle. And then when you are engaged with anything with too much meaning, then that is an emotional struggle, psychological struggle. So the ego is you. The ego is you because you don't see who you are yet. And when you don't see the absolute truth of who you are, what you are is the mental identification. Mental identification is the ego self. You're clinging to the layers and you're moving with the layers. And the ego is all about pushing for the experience. Physical experience and the mental upgrades. And because of that, there's a struggle. And to end the struggle is to dismantle the ego. Dismantling the ego is the only way to be free from the ego. Being free from the ego is being free from your own mind. And that is possible. To be free from your mind, free from your ego is possible while you're living. And you got to do some work. And this work is about tracing the mind. Tracing the mind is about tracing the ego. Notice you have certain belief about yourself. Notice something you see true in yourself. And that you see something true is an idea, isn't it? Is a belief in you. And your life is pulsing with that idea. And everything you're doing is to maintain that idea. So, and that itself is the ego self. When you have a preference, when you have a belief in you and you're moving with that, when you're ingrained in that, that is the sign of ego. And notice, when the world is moving against your preference, moving against your belief, there's a friction, isn't it? The friction is defensiveness in you. And when you are defensive, to protect your idea, protect your belief, protect your preference, that itself is an ego. And investigating on your belief, ingrained belief, is about investigating your ego self. That's the way to eventually let go of the ego. And to let go, you have to really understand the nature of the mind. Without understanding the nature of the mind, you won't be able to simplify your life. You won't be able to create a space for the inward journey. And there's no way you'll be able to see the absolute truth in you. So, investigating yourself is the start. So, accept that you have the ingrained belief in you. And by the way, that ingrained belief in you is trying to prolong life. That ingrained belief or preference in you is trying to push away the death. Death of the ego, and also the ultimate death. Anything you are ingrained in and everything you're doing is to protect that identification. So you're pushing away the death. You're denying the death. And when you deny, you end up suffering more, isn't it? You're suffering. You're rejecting who you are, that's why you're suffering. And that rejection is also rejecting the ultimate death. Again, the only way to find ease while living is by dying in the ego. And this is where the spiritual path is always reminding. Death is the ultimate freedom. Dying in the ego is the freedom while we're living, while we're functioning, while we're being part of the experience. So don't be afraid with the idea of death. Instead of being afraid of the idea of death, accepting the idea of death and contemplating on the idea of death. We can learn to die every day in our ego. And if you learn to disconnect with the ego and also investigate, that investigation will lead you to absolute truth in you, the unchanging truth in you. And seeing that is the only freedom while we're living. And seeing the truth also makes you accept the process. When you're in the process going backward, when you see the truth, that process itself will make you embrace the ultimate death as well. The death of the ego makes you embrace the ultimate death. But without the ego, death of the ego, just as accepting the ultimate death is not truly accepting the ultimate death. How do you see this? Is by seeing your resistance of your daily experience. There are so many things happening in your life you resist, isn't it? You try to control, you manipulate, or you run when you can dominate the situation. So that is all a sign of you resisting the ultimate death as well. So, here's a solution. Contemplate on the death. Now, when I say contemplate on the death, that doesn't mean contemplating on your suicide. That is also the physical death. You don't have to harm yourself to be free. Suicide is, physical torture. So, spirituality is not about that. There are many people have moved in that direction, thinking that suicide, death is the ultimate freedom from the struggle. Yes, again, the body, when there's no body, there's no struggle. But we don't have to go to that extreme. Spirituality shows you how to be free while living, how to overcome your struggle, how to overcome your circumstances while being alive. No need to torture yourself. So if you're going that far, thinking to end the life, that itself shows that you have so much ego in you. You don't even notice that your ego is pushing too far. So you need to step back and you need to investigate on yourself. Why are you thinking that way? What's the reason to have that perception going in your life to commit that situation, to unfold in that way? Self-inquiry is to overcome that dark narratives. So don't go there. That's not how it's supposed to go. You have the body should unfold naturally. If you try to cut the cord, your ego is stubborn in you. Your thinking, your belief is so strong in you, and your belief is making you do such thing. And the belief itself is an ego. So step back and examine your belief, why you listen to your belief so much, and why you acting with your belief. And that way, you'll find the reason for such extreme thinking. You'll find the reason for the root cause of that extreme thinking. And then, once you see the root, then you have to eliminate the root as well. You have to dismantle the root. That root is the ingrained conditioning in you. That root has to go as well. You have to dismantle root. And that's the way to be free from your ego narratives, the ego attachment. So if you are going that extreme, step back and self-examine your own mind, why you think that way. And everybody needs to re-examine their belief, because the belief itself is making people struggle, make people move in such a way that people don't even know that their own thinking and their own action is limiting their life, hoping that action and that perception is eventually provide them the freedom. And the sad part is, it is not. Ingrained belief, the limiting belief, and the action will always make you get stuck. When it comes to spirituality, all belief makes you get stuck. And freedom is not a belief. Truth is not a belief. Enlightenment is not a belief. Truth exists. Awakening occurs. Freedom, true freedom exists. But to make that happen, the mind must be dissolved. All belief, all preference must be dissolved. And how to make the ultimate dissolution of the mind or the ego is the work of dismantling the mind, self-inquiry. Self-inquiry is a thorough approach to understand the nature of the mind and eventually dissolve the mind. The ultimate dissolution happens when you ask yourself, who am I? And that who am I makes you catch yourself. And when you catch yourself, that's where your ego gives up. That's where you give up. That you cannot comprehend the truth. That you can only be the truth. And that moment drops the game of the ego. And that is the death of the ego. And death of the ego makes the living possible with ease, without the mental narratives, without the mental conflict. You see things as they are in the world and in you. And your life happens from being who you are. And that is consciousness itself. And the nature of the consciousness is conscious and empty. Your nature is empty. Belief, mind, ego is the layers that you hold on to and then trying to move with that. So that's like an armor. Safety that you're holding on. And when you hold on to any layer, that itself is the sign of rejecting who you are. And right now, the life is moving in that way. And because of that, there's a struggle in life. And because of the struggle, some people are trying to, go to the extreme to end the struggle by torturing the body. So you got to see why the struggle is there. So investigate your struggle, investigate your fear, investigate your ingrained belief. Investigating means trace your attachment backward to your belief, physical belief, your belief or physical attachment. Trace it backward. Tracing it backward means dismantling the mind. Spiritual freedom is dismantling the mind, not organizing the mind. People are being part of the spiritual practice, and they're organizing the mind and refining the mind and collecting the refined meanings and moving with the meanings. That is not freedom. That is bondage. That is mental trap. That is the ego's trap. The ego is creating that trap for you just to avoid the death of the ego. Ego will do everything to avoid its own death. Especially when you are tracing your mind backward, when you realize that you have to give up everything, that's where the ego bounces. And that's where you have to stay and inquire why the ego wants to bounce. Why the ego is afraid of the spiritual journey. So how to create the death of the ego in a non-harming way is self-inquiry, self-examination of the self. And the self is the ego. Because true self is no self. Anyway, so how to create the death of the ego? You look into yourself. You witness yourself. There are certain beliefs in you that you think is true, and just trace it back. Why do I have this belief? You ask yourself. When you ask why, there should be a reason, because you have the belief. So when you ask why do I have a belief, then there should be answer. So trace your belief backward with why. No matter what answer comes in, why is that important? So every answer that you see, use the answer to connect the dots backward to figure out the root. And once you see the root itself is a fear. And you must dismantle the fear as well in the same way. Why am I afraid? Or why do I have fear? And that will lead you all the way to the mind. And this is the practice of becoming the thorough of your mind. And becoming thorough of your mind makes you understand the nature of the mind. And understanding the nature of the mind makes you make your life simple. The self-inquiry makes your life simple, but simplicity is not freedom. And that's where you got to go further. Dismantling and asking yourself, who am I? That's it. Okay? I hope this video makes sense to you. Yeah, thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video. Take care. Bye.